Welcome to today's video. We're talking about placing items in the same site and whether or not you really want to do that. So for today we're going to be dealing with feature lines, and I just want to point out something to you. What happens here when you put things in the same site, they will interact with each other, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. We're going to just go out and create a feature line, and you'll notice I'm going to put mine in site 1. I've got two sites here just set up already. Site 1, I'm going to start here with an elevation of about 700, and I'm going to come out this way a bit and just hit a 0% grade, which will end up at 700 on the other side. Now if you want to prove that, of course, you can select the feature line, come up here and get this quick elevation editor. It will show you've got an elevation of 700, an elevation of 700, and a grade of 0. Okay, so much for that one. Go back now and create another feature line, and this time we're going to put it in the same site, and we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to cross this line with a elevation of 680 and come down to the opposite side of the line. So we're actually crossing with two elevations at two different elevations right there with two different feature lines, which it kind of does weird things. You'll have to see it here in a moment. So I'm going to hit again enter for the specified grade, enter again, and once again if we go back to the elevation editor, you will see that 680, you'll see that 680, this is still 700, and obviously this is still 700. Okay, but it's doing a weird thing. If I grab both of these, right click and go to Object Viewer, you're going to see something very strange happen here. It actually bent the first line down to the 680. Now why is it doing that? Because this line was here first, it was at 700. When I superseded that at the 680, because they're in the same site, it has to take two feature lines that are crossing in the same site, cannot have but one elevation. So they can't cross with two different elevations. That's the entire issue. If you want this to happen, that's a great tool. If you don't want this to happen, it's not such a great tool. Usually this happens when you're dealing with contours and polylines that cross each other at different elevations. Then you get all sorts of messages in your panorama view. So let's see what we can do to fix that. Well, a couple of things. Number one, I can take this particular polyline here. I can right click on it and say, well, let's move it to a different site. So I'll actually move it to site 2. That's the only one chosen because obviously I only have two sites. It's in site 1 already. I want to move it to site 2. That's of course the destination site. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. Now let's try it again. Pick both of those, right click. Oops, come on now. Get a little trigger happy there. Right click and go to Object Viewer. And this time when we flip it up into the 3D, you'll see that it actually did put them back to where they were. This one's at 700, this one's at 680. All is well in the universe once again. Okay, so that's what's happening. And so now we have 2 points, 2 lines rather. Let's see another weird thing that's happening here. We're going to take this line now and move it back into site 1. Move site, put it back into site 1, hit OK. Now they're both back in there. One would kind of assume that that would be the low point again at 680, and this line would go down and this line would go down to 680. Well, okay, so when I right click on this one now and go back to the Object Viewer and flip it up, it did in fact go back down to the 680. So moving points from different, or rather feature lines from different sites back and forth, etc., will give you different results. Had we taken this line and moved it to site 2 where this one was, it probably would have held this line at 680, or sorry, at 700. But you can play with that and see what happens. Now there's lots of other different things that happen on these. For example, if you put an alignment through a parcel and they're in the same site, then the parcel actually gets split into 2 pieces according to wherever the alignment is. So enough of that for today. Have a good day and do a good job.